Hi, I'm Dr Alice MacKinnon. In my coaching and mentoring service, I use a wonderful tool, very effective tool called Evidence-Based Emotional Freedom Technique, or EFT, or clinical tapping. Many of you will have heard of tapping before. It's a technique that has been widely used for many decades and is in fact related to traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture points or acupressure points. In the last 10 or 15 years, the amount of science and research that has been done around clinical tapping to understand how it works and why it works has been significant. Dr. Peter Stapleton at Bond University on the Gold Coast has spearheaded a lot of this work, and I have the great pleasure of being involved in her training programs and doing my accreditation process for clinical tapping through Peter's work. In essence, one of the best ways to describe clinical tapping is a wonderful practice technique that reduces stress. Anyone can use tapping to reduce stress in day-to-day life. It has also been found to be extremely effective in reducing anxiety, depression, PTSD, and chronic pain. It's also used to great effect around eating patterns and even eating disorders, which is where Dr. Peter began her work. It works very closely with the brain. Let's just hold up our right hand for a moment and use Dan Siegel's right hand model of the brain to discuss how clinical tapping works before we go on and do a quick little practice around stress reduction. So imagining that this is our brain, at the very base of our hand is our brain stem, the most ancient part of our brain, pure survival. Through the middle part of the brain, if we lay our thumb across there, is our limbic system, the place of big feelings, our emotional center of the brain. And over the top is the most recent part of our brain, the cortex. This is our wise adult. It's where we're able to think rationally, make clear, wise decisions. This is like the CEO of our brain. If we feel like we're being overcome by anxiety, if we're upset, if we're angry, frustrated, thrown off center, the first thing to go offline is this wise adult part of our brain. And we do what's called flipping our lid. And we're left with the emotional center of our brain, the place of big feelings. In this part of the brain is the amygdala, which is like a radar for danger, always scanning for danger. It is very much part of our survival brain, and it works very closely with that ancient reptilian brain, part of our brain, which is all about survival as well. Breathing, sleeping, eating, and pure survival. And these two combined are one of the reasons why the human species has been so resilient and has survived to the point that we have. So when we get upset or we flip our lid, it is a body-based process, and we're left with the amygdala being very activated. Once we've flipped our lid, there is nothing that we can say to ourselves, that our mind can say to ourselves, that is going to fix that situation. We need to take action physically. We feel the effects of flipping our lid in our body, a racing heart, a pounding heart, a churning gut, tight shoulders, a shallow breath. All of those are signs that we've flipped our lid. The only way to bring our lid back on is to do something physical. So some deep breaths often help. Running, walking briskly. Qigong gives us tools like knocking, slapping, those sorts of things. And clinical tapping gives us a wonderful series of tapping movements across our face and our chest that can help bring us back to center as well. Clinical tapping has 4 steps in terms of stress reduction. The first is to notice that you flipped your lid, that you're off center, that you're upset, that you're feeling anxious. And the way we notice that is we feel it in the body, that pounding heart. It might be a wave of heat through the body. It might be a churning gut. First we notice. We identify the problem. Oh, I've got that meeting today with my boss. I'm feeling anxious about it. There it is. We name it to tame it, and we rate it out of 10. 10 being the highest level of distress or stress, 0 being the lowest. So we notice it, we name it, hello anxiety, and then we rate it. Okay, it's that meeting with my boss. I think I would give that a 6 out of 10 in terms of the stress that I'm feeling. And then we go through a setup. So it's called the karate chop point on our hand, halfway down one of our hands, it doesn't matter which hand, and with 2 fingers, we tap on the side of the hand. And this is a really important part of the process of tapping, where we accept everything that we're feeling. It might be emotional, it might be thoughts, it might be physical. And we tap on the side of the hand and we do a setup statement 3 times. It begins with even though. And then we name what we're feeling. Even though I feel anxious, my mind is racing, my gut is churning, I'm worried about that meeting or that exam, whatever it is that you're worried about, it's a 6 out of 10. And then we finish the statement with complete acceptance, like this. And in this moment, I completely and lovingly accept myself. We say that 2 more times. Even though I feel this anxiety, this churning gut, this pounding heart, this worry about the meeting with my boss, it's a 6 out of 10. And in this moment, I completely and lovingly accept myself. And 1 more time. Even though I feel this anxiety, this churning gut, this pounding heart, this worry about my meeting with my boss this morning, it's a 6 out of 10. And I completely and lovingly accept myself. And then we go on to the tapping points. There are 8 across here, so let's start. Inside of the eyebrow, we tap about 7 times. Doesn't matter which side of the face, you can change over halfway. It doesn't matter which hand, we just tap. And we say, this anxiety. To the outside of the eye, it's a 6 out of 10. Under the eye, my gut is churning. Under the nose, my heart is pounding. Under the lower lip, I think it's about this meeting with my boss today. And then just below the collarbone on one side of the chest, this anxiety. Under the arm, feeling so anxious. This meeting with my boss on the top of the head. You can go around again if you want to. 1 or 2 times we tap around those acupressure points. And then we take a slow, comfortable breath. We take our awareness inside ourselves and we notice what thoughts we have, what emotions we have, what physical sensations we have. And we re-rate ourselves. Ideally, we're bringing ourselves down to a 0 or a 1. So in this instance, I was at a 6. Yeah, I feel like I've come down quite significantly. I'd say I'm at a 2 or a 3 out of 10. I'm feeling a lot steadier. I'm feeling calmer. My breath is deepening. I think I'm on track to bring this down. And then we tap again. This anxiety. It's a 3 out of 10. It's about this meeting with my boss this morning. I feel quite worried about it. I'm not sure what it's about. I've got butterflies in my belly. My thoughts are pretty racy this morning and worried. You might go around again, this anxiety. It's a 3 out of 10. I'm slowing down a little bit, feeling a bit steadier. Still a little bit of worry. Butterflies in my belly. These feelings of anxiousness. This meeting with my boss. And you take a breath and a rest again, slow and comfortable. And we re-rate ourselves. I feel like I've come right down to a 0 out of 10, that tapping process is complete when we reach a 0 or a 1. What it means is that tapping, the acceptance of how we're feeling, even though my gut is churning, I feel really anxious, and in this moment, I completely accept myself, the setup statement, and the tapping around those key acupressure points. What it has done is it has calmed that radar for danger, the amygdala, down, which has helped to put our lids back on, and our cortex has come back online, so we're able to think clearly again and wisely. We're not going to rush off and make crazy decisions. The other thing, in terms of doing presentations or exams or tests or anything like that, it's interesting to note that the amygdala is located very close to our hippocampus, which is a tiny seahorse shaped part of our brain. The amygdala is like a tiny almond shaped part of our brain. And when the amygdala gets fired up, it pushes against the hippocampus and blocks it. And the hippocampus is the place of memories, short-term, long-term, and a lot of information. So when we're studying for exams or preparing for presentations, all of that information is going into our hippocampus. But when we get nervous about that and anxious and the amygdala fires up, we lose our cortex and the amygdala fires up, it blocks the hippocampus. And we're not able to access that information, those memories, that knowledge. When we calm the amygdala down through that tapping process, it moves away from the hippocampus and we're able to access that information again. So as well as our cortex coming back online, that information that we've stored is now accessible to us. The other thing that the science has shown us is that our cortisol levels drop. The firing of the adrenals calms down. They excrete cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And as we tap and as we bring ourselves back online, cortisol levels drop as well. We're seeing all of this through brain scans, through physiological body scans, the science and the evidence base around clinical tapping and its effectiveness and the way that it works with the amygdala and the brain is extremely compelling. So that's in essence how we tap. That's a way that you can tap day to day around stress reduction and stress management and bringing your lid back on, reconnecting your cortex and using that. As I mentioned at the beginning, we can also use clinical tapping for depression, anxiety, PTSD, chronic pain, eating, exercise, a whole range of things. Often these are best done with practitioners like myself, and there are clinical tappers all around the world. We work online and in person, and it's certainly a core component of what I do in my coaching and mentoring service. Please feel free to reach out to me if you would like to know more, or if you would like to book in for a tapping session or more around something that you are grappling with or something that you realize is no longer serving you well in your life. I'm Dr. Alice MacKinnon. It's a pleasure to join you. You can reach out to me on my website, aliceionamckinnon.com. Bye for now.